Hey friend, okay, so I would love to talk more about this. So the whole idea of blue zones is really interesting. Basically, it's been noted that there are certain areas of the world where a lot more people tend to live a lot longer than the average. So a researcher went around to these areas to see if he could find any commonalities. A lot of the things he found are absolutely fascinating. For example, a lot of these communities are very tight, close-knit, supportive. They're also very active. A lot of them live in hilly regions, so they're walking up and down hills all day. They tend to have very traditional lifestyles. But there is some problems with this data too, especially when it comes to the nutrition. First of all, this researcher cherry-picked a lot of the regions, meaning, for example, that he picked Greece and Costa Rica, but not Iceland or Hong Kong, who have just as many long-lived people. He also went and did a lot of his research in the spring and summer months, times when people are eating very differently than they would be eating in like the fall or winter. There were also some issues with translation. He would ask how often they consumed certain foods, and he wasn't quite using the right vocabulary for what those people understood. So a lot of people use this data to argue that plant-based diets make you live the longest, because that's what the research seems to show on the surface. But again, he ignored data from places like Iceland, where a huge amount of the diet is coming from things like sheep and dairy, and those people live just as long. And seasonally speaking, summertime is when people are going to be eating the most plants because they're in season. If he had gone, say, to Greece, which is one of the blue zones, in the winter, he would have seen them eating a ton of pork and goat and sheep. And he actually didn't even ask about dairy in some of these regions. And again, a place like Greece are actually eating tons of cheese and butter and milk. In some regions, the words red meat and beef got conflated in translation. So people would say that they don't eat any red meat, but what they meant is they don't eat any beef. They still eat lamb every day. So it's one set of research. It's interesting. It should be taken into account. But when we look at follow-up research and other accounts, there are definitely some problems with it. And we really need to understand our expanding of nutrition and health further.